gain exposure in Kenya's economic growth. Invest in the NSC and start your journey to wealth creation and financial freedom. For more information, visit www.nsc.co.ke. The NSC. Discover opportunity.
This is KTN News.
4 minutes after 7, this is Morning Express, and it's still time for State of the Nation. Now, State of the Nation is where we put our pulse on the nation and find out if we have a healthy heartbeat. Now, the question that we have now is in regards to China and Kenya's relations. Recently, we had the foreign minister from China to Kenya, Li Zhuhang, reacting and saying that Kenya is on a trade war. Why? Because they received a letter from the Kenya fisheries officials that we would not be importing too much fish from China. And he said this was, well, a trade war. The other remarks were in regards to the outbursts by politicians in relation to the flooding of Chinese workers and Chinese, well, basically in Kenya, doing manual jobs that Kenyans could do. So the question is, should we be concerned that China is already reacting? And of course, wondering what really is in the agreement that we have. A quick reintroduction of the guests that we have. We have Kipruto Arap Kirwa, that's Honorable Kipruto Arap Kirwa, the Deputy Party Leader for ANC. Honorable Kembi Gitura, the immediate former Senator for Murang'a County. We have Ambrose Weda, who is a lawyer. And we are also now joined by Elizabeth Kimkung, who's from the KANU Women's National Congress. Thank you for joining us, Elizabeth. And maybe I'll start with you since you've not had a chance to speak this morning. And the question being, should we be concerned that China is already reacting the way they are just by virtue of the fact that there's been politicians, well, raising concerns and alarm by virtue of the fact that we have very many Chinese in Kenya doing jobs that Kenyans could do?
Thank you very much and good morning. I think it is a concern to this country. The reason why we have to protect our industries and we have to protect our people in jobs. The more Chinese people you have here, even if we're having a project, the same Chinese people are the ones who are working on those sites. So when you look at it from that angle, our citizens are not benefiting at all. They're importing their cement, they're importing their ballast, you know, they're importing everything that they're using to develop, even the SGR as we saw here. So where is the benefit for this country?
Our politicians do have a point when they raise the flag and say, hey, there's something here that is not agreeable. But why would China be reacting to that now?
I think China would be reacting. The reason is they have found a market. This market they can flood with all their products. It is business for them. But what are we getting out of it, considering that this is a loan that we will also repay? It's not something that they're doing for us just, you know, as being friends.
It's not just a favor.
Exactly.
All right. And I'll come to you, Honorable Kirwa. And the threat that they have put forward is the completion of the SGR between Naivasha and Kisumu. Now, question being, you're a farmer, so you understand matters to do with farming, and one of the things that they raise is the fact that the Chinese fish has flooded the market at the expense of local fish farmers. However, the question again would be, why is Chinese fish cheaper than what we're getting from here?
Yeah.
The math there doesn't seem to add up.
Yeah, let's go back to the basics of international relations. It's about the interests of each nation, and therefore Chinese, they are within their breadth and their right to claim what they are claiming. We also, as Kenyans, must assert our presence, because in Africa, all the time we run the risk of losing more than we are gaining, given the fact that in Africa, for every 1 shilling that we get into Africa, 6 shillings go out of Africa by the same transaction. Therefore, the Chinese cannot pretend that they are doing anything benevolent to Kenyans. Indeed, they are making us suffer. Even the fish they are saying to be cheaper is also a principle of business, that I flood the market, I kill you out of production, and therefore the market becomes mine. Remember the question of breweries and castle breweries.
From South Africa.
From South Africa. Whatever trade wars that took place ensured that the castle closed the shop here. So what you do is make sure that you flood. It may not be cheap, but you will be doing it just because you want to kill the existing infrastructure production. And once you kill it, then the market becomes yours. That is the main problem. Now, the third issue is that, yes, the president might have made some kind of diplomatic spurt, but it is not enough for Chinese to tell us that they are not going to do this thing. After all, Kenya can do without the SGR, the extension of the SGR, for the balance of the time. Then we upgrade the rest of the railway from Naivasha to Eldoret all the way to Malaba. So it's a question of us positioning ourselves. Finally, on this issue of fish, there is an institution called KEFIS, which is in charge of phytosanitary conditions. And therefore, we must also check the fish that they are saying is coming at half price to ensure that it meets our local standards and it does the necessary requirements fit for human consumption. Otherwise, we are not just going to open our gates and allow everything. No country in the world will open gates to kill its own agriculture.
Its own market. All right, Ambrose Weda, let me come to you. And this is coming just before the president visits China in November to seal some more deals. What is it that you'd expect the president possibly to take as a message to China?
First of all, I think what the president said that it was at the show was a mistake. You don't tell, even in front of our children, you don't tell them, let's create
Think
some
out of
fault.
the box.
Let's create, first of all said, we can say, so we can create that something is wrong with the fish, then we reject it. That is not right. It should have been. When you see MPs crying and talking, it is not a question of Chinese selling things. Who has allowed them in? Immigration. Immigration is the one that has allowed them to come and hawk maize and hawk all sorts of utensils. We see them in the SS selling utensils. Our members of parliament should be asking government and the relevant people how these people came in and why they should not take responsibility. They should not come and on TVs and tell us, I spoke about it and yap to my grandmother in the village. They know these people. China is doing its part, protecting its own citizens. We are not protecting ours. We are allowing all sorts of charlatans from China to come and do all sorts of business. When the president goes to China, the standards are clear. Those who can come to work here, basically professionals offering professional services that are not locally available. That doesn't include selling utensils. That doesn't include selling fish. Secondly, the fish that they are saying is coming to this country. I think what the minister said, Honorable Kiro, is basically to flood, kill, then the prices go up. Thirdly, it is mostly Kenyans bringing these substandard materials here. How do they bring it? They work with a cab and then they bring in contraband and all sorts of things. It is about administration. So before the president goes, can he reorganize things so that these loopholes are sealed? There's no way some funny Chinese, they come here and then they come as tourists, then they go into our parks and they kill our buffaloes and all sorts of things. If that is sealed, there will be no trade war. Thirdly, he needs to go with people who are genuinely for Kenya, not those who negotiate deals that are anti-Kenya. We get deals and contracts which have not been properly read, and then we end up with problems. Why do I say so? There was in the social media, they were saying, if a Kenyan can fly that big thing from JKA all the way to New York, Kenyans themselves, they take the Dreamliner to New York and back. How can the same Kenyan not take a train from Mombasa, SGR, to Nairobi? What are they saying? They are saying that some deals were signed, but we did not read the letters, and therefore is hurting the country. As he continues to go, he should take people who will go and read those documents, people who understand Chinese, people who understand the language, people who are pro-Kenya, not people who say, I'll sign for you, but then you'll send something later. Because we know the Chinese are businessmen and women. They are corrupt. If you want money, they pay you. If you want a good thing, they give you. They have standards for everybody. When they go to America, they give the American standard. When they come to Kenya and WEDA is negotiating, they say, WEDA, if you want this one and something for your pocket, here it is. So it is the president and his team to change tact for the sake of this country.
Okay, Honorable Kembi, if Ling Zhuhang's words are anything to go by, because he says that this is a trade war, what does Kenya stand to lose should it indeed become a trade war?
We don't want a trade war in the first instance, because we're also trying to export agricultural produce to China. And we like it to be viable. So we don't want a trade war, but we also don't want to be threatened. This should be clear. We don't want to be threatened, because no nation should be shy to protect its people. No nation should be shy. And by saying that we are protecting our fishing industry in Lake Victoria, in Lake Turkana, in the Indian Ocean, we should not apologize for saying that. And so I go back to where I started, that we cannot allow another nation to subjugate us in any way. And we cannot allow our industry to die, fishing industry to die, so that Kisumu closes down, so that we can have cheap fish from another country. I will not talk about what the president should say when he gets to China. I mean, that I'll be too presumptive. But the SGR is a commercial transaction. If they don't want to fund it, and I hope they do not keep to that threat because it's unreasonable, if they don't want to fund it, maybe in due course, it will be inconvenient, but it's a loan, maybe it can be refinanced by somebody else. So it doesn't mean that because they started, if they break the contract, then Kenya will have a right to create another contract with somebody else and refinance it. Let's wait and see whether they are going through with that threat and they are going to break the contract, right? Then we have options. Because it's not only them who can build the SGR. SGR is not equal to China. SGR is a standard gauge railway, and it can be done by anybody else as a commercial transaction. But threatening us, because we are a smaller economy, is very, very unfortunate. And I hope that the Minister for Trade and Industry, whoever is in charge of it, is going to say as much and tell them, listen, man, it's not about threats, it's about being reasonable. We want to trade with you, but not at any cost. I think that should be the message.
Must stand our ground.
I think that should be the message that is being sent. We want to trade with you, not at any cost. If you feel that you must then do what you are saying you must do, then you must let us also do what we must do. Because it will be cheaper for us to import whole tilapia, for instance, or fish from nearer countries, so that it is good fish. Why? Ask yourself, and I believe this goes to what WEDA and Kipruto Rapiro have said. Ask yourself, why is tilapia coming from China cheaper from tilapia coming from Lake Victoria? There must be something. There must be a hidden agenda. There must be something we don't understand at the moment. And we are going to bear the consequences much sooner than later. And I do not want that day to come, because then we'll have lost much more than we are planning to gain.
All right, let me come to you, Elizabeth. And what do you see as the way forward? We certainly would appreciate a good bilateral relationship with China, and we stand to benefit as well, but not when they begin to threaten. And is it too early in the day for them to be almost pulling out a threat to us, yet we've just somehow begun this relationship?
Thank you very much. I think the threat is really uncalled for, especially when, as you said, we have not had a long-term relationship with them. It's a bit scary, because then you ask yourself, if we work with China for a long period, what will they not do to Kenyans?
And what's their
And what is their
plan?
hidden agenda? And when we talk about this tilapia, I think they're doing fish farming, which is completely different from somebody getting the fish from the lake. So if I start fish farming today, I may be able to produce a lot more fish than the fisherman who brings it out. Now, what do they feed this fish? There's all sorts of stories going around. How healthy is it for us? I think Honorable Kira mentioned it. Have it been tested? Do we know what we're eating, really? And then why would they be so keen to supply us with something which is almost a norm here? Fish has been here since time immemorial. We've been fishing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And whether you're from, you know, I'm sure you've dealt with fish in one way or the other, so you would understand the economics surrounding fish. I'll be honest with you, I was surprised. I went to Kisumu not too long ago, and our fish is very expensive. Just, you know, a normal tilapia, and you're at the lake. Maybe I was overcharged, I don't know, but it was close to 1,000 shillings, which I found absolutely expensive for fish that we're getting from there. How is it that China manages to sell fish, the same tilapia, for 400 shillings when we're selling for 700?
It is like the same question would be how comes the kienyeji chicken is more expensive than the broilers? Those are the Chinese fish. Normally they are small pieces of fish, and they are standard. They look the same. When you see them, they all look the same. Now you can't get fish from the lake which look the same. None. But the Chinese ones, they look exactly twins.
Almost like they are manufactured in a factory.
Yes. So they bring them in, and then most of them are small. You cannot do a fillet from them. And then they also taste different. They taste different unless you have been hungry or you don't know about it. But so the way we get our fish from the lake is so basic and traditional that it is almost a kind of cartelish. There is no innovation about it. It's the old people who go, the old way of doing things. People go in there and they hoard it, and they sleep with ladies and they sleep with men. The stories that go there. So when they come out, the price is not related to the quality.
Like you have experience, but anyway, carry on.
It's not related to quality. It's related to controlled supply. It's related to many things. Now, that added to the fact that because it is the type of fish from where you get fillet, and it is also good, the demand is very high. So big hotels will want the fillet, so it is brought to Nairobi, it's brought to whatever, leaving the common man with nothing. So the little that remains is the expensive one. That gap is filled by the Chinese one. If our government could have continued the policy of fish farming, which is doing very well in some parts, we would have very good quality fish that has not been fed with human parts, and then we would supply ourselves. But because people want to make money, it's not the Chinese bringing the fish. It is the likes of whether we are going to China, we see the fish and say, hey, this one, let's take it to Kenya. It is us to stop our own people say, no fish is coming. The Chinese will not bring it up. And if you look at the way what they feed those fish, you only need God himself to
help us. And maybe before I come away from you, because you probably would also be an expert in taste.
Yes.
I understand that there's a huge difference between, you know, the Chinese fish, even in terms of just the taste itself, and what we get from the lake. Is that true?
Big difference. Big. It's like taking, if you take a broiler chicken, the one that is 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and you boil it. Boil it just like that, and then you take the kienyeji and you boil and you taste them. That is the difference. The Chinese fish, if you do not put additives, vinzari, siji, what, you can't eat it. You have to add many things. The other one, even if you just put salt, it's good. So the taste is different.
Okay. Yeah. I'd like us to take a short break. When we come back, I want us to have our closing remarks, but also look at it now from the angle of should Kenya be becoming more innovative? Why do we always have to go to other countries